It's all about humanity.
We strive valiantly.
About humanity.
There is no effort without error. We strive valiantly. We strive
It's all about humanity.
There is no effort without error. There is no effort without error.
And when you find your passion, it ignites you as a person. You just feel awesome. Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you have not subscribed and you've watched more than one video, stop being weird. Jen, one of our sisters, she is trying to figure out the basic game plan for doing takedowns. And she is torn between trying for a takedown at the start or pulling guard. She says that she knows that there are pros and cons to both. Girl, do not fucking pull guard, okay? This is women's jiu-jitsu. We are like pioneering on the forefront. Do not pull guard. What you do in a self-defense situation is going to be translated from what you train, from your muscle memory of training. What you do on the mat, you're going to do in a self-defense situation. And if you pull guard in a self-defense situation, exactly what happens on the mat is going to happen to you in that self-defense situation. You're going to be put in a shitty position. And why would you want to do that to yourself? Okay, you are going to throw people, you are going to take them down, and you are going to get in a dominant position, you are going to maintain that position, and you are going to choke them out, all right? That's how the self-defense situation is going to go, point blank. I know this because I double leg dudes bigger than me all the time. Okay, let's just get that out of the way. Do not ever, there's no pros and cons, like there's no pro to pulling guard. Okay, you're gonna do that in a self-defense situation, get kicked in the face, and we don't want that, okay? All right, so she's strong. I mean, she deadlifts 220, but the strength has not been translating into her takedowns. And you know, she's 105 and she tries to do a takedown and she ends up getting like swung around and she gets super frustrated and she's like, what's wrong with me? Girl, I feel you, okay? I'm gonna tell you some things that were told to me later on in the process and like it didn't really sink in, okay? Let me tell you this. Takedowns are the hardest thing to develop in all of the jiu-jitsu game. This is for a couple of reasons. Takedowns require a higher level of skill and they require the ability to read the situation and match exactly what is needed. Like it's a higher level. It's almost like higher level, like purple belt jiu-jitsu. Like you need that in order to successfully complete a takedown. I'm sorry for any background noise, but this is the only time I can do this video. So, all right. So here's what you do. In order for you to successfully get a takedown, your mentality needs to be right, or else you're going to experience exactly what you have been experiencing extreme frustration. One thing that will help you with this frustration is understanding that it takes everybody years to develop takedowns and for takedowns to work on the mats. Like I've heard this from multiple people. I helped my boyfriend develop his double leg. He's 200 and something pounds. During this process, he would try to double leg me and I would catch him in a guillotine. So even for people who are bigger and stronger, going up against a smaller opponent, if they don't have that skill developed, they can still be guillotined and get guillotined. So what you have to understand is what you are trying to accomplish here. You are going up against people on the mats. It's not a matter of, okay, they're bigger than me. It's something that's invisible. It's their skill. It's their motor memory, like balance of how to intelligently move their body to defend. How do I know this? I know this because of my experience when I was a bouncer as a white belt. I was working on judo throw takedowns and nothing was working. I was coming in early. I was drilling, hundreds of reps. Nothing was working for me on the mat. One night when I was bouncing, there was this dude that was so big. I literally could not get my arms around him, refused to leave the bar. I had to jump up and grab him by his neck because that's the only piece of his body I could get my hands around. And I did this little takedown, like, hey, like you're out of here, like this. And he went flying, like from here to the door, literally flew out the door. And one of my teammates was bouncing with me, and he was looking at me laughing because of my facial expression, because the amount of force that I used to get like a 300 and something pound man going and flying out the door, that was the same amount of force and skill that I used in the gym every single night with that move that never worked. So what was the difference? It wasn't the size, it was the skill. So my point is, don't be frustrated when things are not working on the mat. It's not a matter of, oh, you're smaller. It's a matter of they have skill. And you can't see skill like when you physically look at somebody, but you just feel it. So know that it's not working because of their skill to defend, not because of your lack of skill to execute, okay? If you went out and did it to some dude on the street that didn't know how to defend it or move his body properly to counteract, then it would be successful. Okay, so just that's important because you need to get you need to believe. Okay, if you think that something's not going to work just because somebody's bigger, it's going to shut down your capability of doing it because you're going to have like a self-limiting belief. So I just want to tell you that it's possible. Okay. Another reason why stand-up takes so long to develop in jiu-jitsu is because of the time period in which we have to perform it. So for example, let's say you're doing a live round. You know, the live round is 5 minutes, you go for a takedown and it doesn't work out, you end up on the bottom for the remainder of, oh my God, there's so much background noise, for the remainder of the round. What does that mean? You only spent 10 seconds or a minute of every round, so that's 3 minutes a week. Okay, like how many days a week is that? So that only translates to like what, 15 minutes of training it per week? Like, so here's what I did to combat this. What I did and still do is during the jiu-jitsu round, I'll either be like, hey, do you want to do like judo style? And they're like, what's that? And I'm like, hey, like, so me and you, we like each try to go for a takedown. As soon as the takedown happens, we just immediately stand back up. So I either do that and it's agreed upon, or when I'm rolling and let's say, they're on top of me, I will do like a post on the neck and then do a technical stand up and get back to my feet, which is exactly what I would do in an MMA fight. It's exactly what I would do in a self-defense situation. I would be fighting to stand up all the time. And what this does is it not only improves your motor memory to do what you should be doing in a street fight or in a self-defense situation or in an MMA fight, like it's training you to do that, and it's also allowing you to get more time on your feet to practice takedowns. Okay, so keep that in mind. And then finally, this is huge, the mental aspect of it. So basically, there's always this fear and this apprehension for going for a takedown. And part of it is if you're training in the style of like, okay, once you get a takedown and it's over, the risk and reward seems a little bit skewed because you're like, okay, if I go for this takedown and if I mess it up, which you probably will when you're learning something, the punishment is being on the bottom like the whole round. But if you train so that you try the takedown and then immediately like stand back up, then you have given yourself extra time to practice takedowns, and the punishment isn't you like being on the bottom. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, it's like pulling guard for some reason in our mind. It's like I was talking to another white belt because we were rolling and she pulled guard, and I'm like, well, why did you do that? And she's like, well, it seems like the punishment for trying takedowns is I always end up in a shitty position. And I'm like, well, if you pull guard, you're putting yourself in a shitty position, so the result's the same, but for some reason it just feels different if you put yourself there versus if you feel like you did something wrong to get put there. So what I want your mentality to be is like that quote of like, you want to be valiant in your failure. You want to go down in a blaze of fucking glory, okay? Like every time you're going down in a blaze of fucking glory, it's Braveheart. You're like, you know what I'm saying? Like back in the day when you had like there was women who were warriors, and these women who were warriors back in Japan, like, do you think when they fought like hand-to-hand combat, do you think they just laid down on the battlefield? No, like that's what pulling guard is. So so during your rounds, be like, hey, let's just do stand up where we take each other down and we get back up. And if you're trying to learn a move, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, can we go like 50% intensity? That way you can at least get the movement down and then increase your intensity after that to put more resistance on it. Because, you know, you don't lift weights. You don't, first day in the gym lifting weights, you're not gonna put 500 pounds on the bar. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to start from somewhere in order to build yourself up. And another super thing, this will help you so much, okay? What you do is you put two, in order to build this game, put two moves together, okay? Like for example, Uchi Mata and ankle pick. And this does two things for you. One, you are less afraid to go for 100% commitment because you know you have a backup plan. So it makes you more confident because you're like, haha, I'm gonna go for this at 100% and it's either gonna work or my backup plan is going to work because the second move is going to go with the movement of the defense from the first move, okay? So Uchi Mata to ankle pick is one example of this. So go ask your professor, like, hey, what are some takedown moves that are a good match? Another example of this is pairing a wrestling takedown with a trip. So you could do like a single, you have a single leg, you're trying to run the pipe, you know, take them down with that single leg, it's not working. You then reach around their hip and stick out your leg and then trip them. So pairing like wrestling moves and trips. If you want some like online tutorials, like I can certainly like put that on my Patreon. For things that already exist, I really like Travis Stevens' YouTube page. He is a, look at his ears, girl. His ears tell you everything. He is a judo Olympic champion. He is a wrestler and he knows Jiu jitsu. So what I love about the takedowns that he teaches, he usually teaches it in a combination and you could tell it's taught by somebody who has executed them. Like he gives very useful information, and Uchi Mata to ankle pick is one of those is one of those technique pairings that he teaches and that I've also seen other people teach. What else? Yeah, and if they're throwing you around like that, I would have to see a video of like what you're doing and what's happening, but it just sounds like maybe there isn't a good connection of you to their body. Maybe the grips need to be improved. But yeah, so pairing techniques. Like judo and wrestling techniques are like chocolate and peanut butter, girl. But the bottom line is, it's really not, it's not the size, it's the skill level of their ability to defend that is prohibiting you from getting the move, okay? And if you practice, if you give yourself more time to fail, like you need to, don't look at failure as like, oh, I didn't get this technique. It's literally, have a number that you want to hit, a number of fails. Like I need to fail this 100 times and I need to go for it. And I need to go for it 100% commitment, like in a blaze of fucking glory when I fail. Like this is going to be the most valiant failure anybody has ever seen. And I'm going to be so brave and just go for it. Okay, it feels like you're about ready to jump off a cliff when you go for a takedown. You're like, I don't know if this is gonna work. You going for a double leg on a... So one other story, I remember when I was first learning how to do a double leg. Don't mind the half-naked man in the background. So when I was first starting to learn how to do a double leg and I was trying to do it on the mat, I remember one of the guys, to defend it, instead of sprawling, he literally went like this really hard, and like I got struck with a hip in my leg. I was like, ow, like what was that? So like, not only did I have the negative reinforcement of failing, I had the negative reinforcement of being like hip struck. So hopefully like that won't happen to you, but it's important to train your mind to not take this as like a loss. It is literally part of the process. And if you are failing, you're doing something right because you need to get in those reps, okay? All right, so until next time.